Hello everybody, this is Tyler King here with a new episode of NuReview. Today I'm going to be doing a review of Peter Murphy's second solo album, Love Hysteria. Love Hysteria is released in March of 1987. The album is produced by Simon Rogers, who also plays guitar on here, who is actually a ex-member of the band The Fall. He does also contribute keyboards as well as guitar. Peter sings. On here he plays keyboards and harmonica. Paul Statham, making his first appearance on a Peter Murphy album, he's going to appear on the next few, plays keyboards on here. Peter Bonis plays guitar and bass, and Terrell Bryant on drums. Actually, all three of them are going to form the core of Peter's band, the 100 Men, who will play on his next couple of solo albums. There are other musicians on this album, but I think that those are the most important to the sound of the album as well as the sound of what Peter Murphy is going to be doing in the future. Singles released from this album include Blind Sublime, All Night Long, and Indigo Eyes. The album actually does open up with one of the singles, All Night Long. We do get this mallet instrumentation that opens up the song/album, but it's not like something that you would hear on an Oingo Boingo song with like a fast-paced breakneck tempo. It's actually much slower here. And we do get some very lush acoustic guitars that are strummed as the song continues forward into the first verse. This very simple beat comes in as Peter sings, "When the night is closing, eyes are running, then I hear you humming all night long." Listening to the song, if you go through Peter's chronology and you listen to the song after hearing Should the World Fail to Fall Apart, one of the very first things that you will notice is that as far as songwriting goes, this song is much better written than almost anything on Should the World Fail to Fall Apart, which isn't to say that this is necessarily a better song than some of the ones on here, but I mean, who am I kidding? This song is actually really, really good. The other thing about this song, and this can be mostly applied throughout this entire album, is that the production is a lot more even sounding on this album than the previous one, which, I mean, partly due to the fact that his first album had something like 3 or 4 different producers on it, whereas here it is just one producer. Also, the instrumentation is a lot more lush and full sounding than on his first album, especially once we get to the chorus. The pulsing synths that jump in at us during the chorus, they don't feel out of place at all, and they do actually help to complement the rest of the instrumentation. This song is just a perfect album opener, and it really does help to set the stage for what is to come. And I've seen Peter do this song a few times, and it almost always is a highlight of the show when he plays this song. Following this, we do have the second song, His Circle and Hers Meet. And this song has an interesting opening. There's this detuned synth pad and these very exaggerated percussive hits that open up the song. Finally, this electric guitar just roars out of nowhere, and we do get these driving drums that come up with it. There are some piano keys that are played under the verses, and about 2.5 minutes in, we finally get the chorus as Murphy belts, "She killed his past with her kiss. All past was but a lie. She killed his head. She killed his mouth and opened the sky." Some of the songs on this album are more rock influenced and more live sounding than some of the other songs on here, and this is going to be the first example of that. It does go on a little bit too long, I think, but it's not an unenjoyable song. Next, we have Dragnet Drag, which opens with Peter singing, "Look at them now, look at them do." There's some strummed guitar going on as he sings that, and this kind of voxy synth pad. The composition on this song is one of the more simpler ones on the album. The lyrics are a bit heady in parts. He sings lines like, "The Sufi three-winged flight they soar, all sacrals join all hearts." There are some legitimately pretty piano parts, though, that are played during the instrumental breaks as well as sometimes under Peter Murphy's vocals, which I think is going to be the first instance on this album that will show how vital Paul Statham is going to be to the evolution of Peter Murphy's sound and how vital he is as a player on this album. Overall, though, despite the pretty piano parts, this is not necessarily a song that I find myself returning to very often. And the same can it can mostly be said about the next song, which is Socrates the Python. Before going back and re-listening to this album for these reviews, this was probably my least favorite song on the album, although I have warmed up to it a bit more now that I've gone back and re-listened to it. It is without a doubt the most ethereal song on the album, the same way that Neverman was the most ethereal sounding song on the Should the World Fail to Fall Apart album. There is some far off percussion here, and we do get some finger cymbals, which the instrumentation here does make me think a bit of the album that Peter Murphy would end up doing right around 2001 or 2002 called Dust, where he fully embraced this Middle Eastern influence into his music. And I think that Socrates the Python really is a precursor of that. Granted, it's about 10 or so years before he would fully go into that. The lyrics deal with God and philosophy. Peter actually asks, when I say God is one, does God the Word make you real? There is a jarring instrumental break right around 3 minutes into this song as this guitar solo just lunges out at us with this very atmospheric synth pad going on underneath it. The song closes with the chant, Bennett Gurdjieff Jesus, which is a very haunting moment on not just the song, but the entire album. Opening up side 2, we have Indigo Eyes, and it's a little bit jarring going into this song from Socrates the Python, because Socrates the Python is probably the most uncommercial sounding song on the album, and Indigo Eyes is without a doubt the most commercial sounding song on this album. The acoustic guitar hook is catchy, the bass is punchy, and the song is just this very good pop song that just begs you not to tap your foot to it. There is some really great piano playing on the chorus. As Peter sings, he looks out mad, his soft gray indigo eyes. I do know that this is one of the more popular songs on this album. In fact, I would say it probably is the most popular song on this album, but it's never really done particularly too much for me, which isn't to say that I don't enjoy it, but I do think that it goes on a bit too long. I think that if it were maybe 3 minutes long instead of 4.5 minutes long, it would leave a much better impression on me than it does. Funny enough, I do think that it works better as a juxtaposition to Socrates the Python than it does standing on its own. The next song is Time Has Got Nothing to Do With It, and we do get some very pretty, light, arpeggiated synth opening this song, as some acoustic guitar and bass slowly creep in. And as far as compositions on this song, on this album go, I would say that this again is one of the more simple ones, but this does leave much more of an impression on me than Dragnet Drag or His Circle and Hers Meet do. Atmospheric synth pads fade in and out, and the moment when the drums come pounding in after the first chorus is just this moment of bliss on this album. And I would say that this is going to be one of the best ballads that Peter Murphy has ever written. Peter is singing Change is Insane with Eyes That Blame as those drums just come pounding into this song. Peter's vocals here also, are just so impassioned and sincere sounding and so emotional, and this song is about 5 minutes or so long, but it uses every single second of that runtime to its advantage. The next song is Blind Sublime, and this song is up there with His Circle and Hers Meet as songs that rock on this album. The drums are pounding, get this distorted guitar roar that welcomes us into the beginning of the song, and does set a perfect example of what's to come throughout this number. The lyrics are, for the most part, pretty simple, although Peter's vocal delivery here is pretty interesting. He's going from baritone to falsetto, and just pleading with the listener as the song goes on. And like on most of the other songs here, there is some very pretty piano playing on here from Paul Statham. It is easy to see or hear why the song was chosen as a single, because it is pretty catchy, but it does still have an edge to it that something like Indigo Eyes does not. The ending refrain of Peter singing, "I submit to it and still feel sane," just gets to me every time I hear it, especially after spending the entire song singing about conquering whatever it is that he's trying not to succumb to. The next song is My Last 2 Weeks, and as far as composition goes, I would say that this is the most gorgeous sounding song on this album. It is sung over this very plaintive piano and understated percussion. It's definitely a very stripped sounding song. There's not too much going on in the way of lots of instrumentation. The lyrics do seem to be about some kind of missed opportunity. Peter asks, "Am I untruthful as a result of being?" As the song goes on, we do get some bongos added to the instrumentation to help the rhythm keep the song continually going, and the piano flourishes do become a bit more heavy and dramatic as the song continues. The song is pretty long, it's just about around the 7-minute mark, but like Time Has Got Nothing to Do with It, it uses every single second of the song to its advantage, and it is such a beautiful, moving song, especially given the emotion that Peter puts into his vocals. I really just cannot give any kind of complaint to this song. I will say, though, like the previous album, in the same way that Final Solution should have been the closing song on Should the World Fail to Fall Apart, I do think that My Last 2 Weeks should have been the final song on Love Hysteria. And when the song just ends and we just get these sighing synth pads and bongos, I just really wish that the album ended there. But instead, the closing song is going to be a cover song. It's a cover of Funtime, originally by Iggy Pop on his album The Idiot. On The Idiot, the song Funtime served as a moment of fun on what was otherwise a very heavy, moody, almost industrial sounding post-punk album. And on here, it serves as a moment of fun after we get this very emotional, heavy song, My Last 2 Weeks. And it almost feels like a slap in the face after Peter has just, bared his heart to us over the span of 7 minutes. The interpretation of the song here is very bombastic. It almost like borders on goofy at some points. And I think that on its own, it's not a bad song, but taking it as the closing track, it feels grossly inappropriate. Unfortunately, also, closing with Funtime does add a further level of unevenness on Love Hysteria. And as much as I wish that it ended with My Last 2 Weeks, it didn't. It ended with Funtime. And that is Love Hysteria by Peter Murphy. Love Hysteria is an album that I wish I enjoyed a lot more than I do. I do think it's definitely a step towards the right direction, especially when you keep in mind the next album that Peter is going to release. I think that pairing it with Should the World Fail to Fall Apart, Love Hysteria is much better produced, although it is a little bit more uneven. And although there are only, I believe, 9 songs on this album, yeah, there are 9 songs on this album. Besides a few, there's not really anything on here that I absolutely love. Not like I do with the albums immediately before and immediately after this one. Which isn't to say that Love Hysteria is a bad album, and if anything, the 3 songs on here that I do absolutely love do, for the most part, make it worth a listen for me. I do have a tendency to stop listening, though, after My Last 2 Weeks, just because it doesn't seem like the album should have Funtime on it. I think if it's just an 8-track album, it would be a much more solid listen than it is. But it does have its moments of unevenness. I think that at this point in his career, Peter was kind of torn between going with a more rock-influenced sound, which he would do eventually, or a more, not ambient, but a more ethereal, relaxed, mysterious sound, which he does do on a couple of songs here. He just doesn't necessarily do it as well as he would in the future. I think that Love Hysteria is an album that you should give a listen to at least a couple of times because it is, that's what I'm looking for. The instrumentation on here is definitely a lot better than on Should the World Fail to Fall Apart, which mostly had programmed beats on it. Here we do get a lot of live drums, and it does have much more of a live feel to it, although the next album would have even more of a live feel to it. Yeah, I don't know, Love Hysteria is not necessarily an album of his that I go back and I revisit very often, besides the few songs on here that I really immensely enjoy. And I just really wish that I enjoyed this album a lot more than I do. I just don't. And it's not because it's a bad album. I actually enjoy it when I do put it on. I don't know, I just wish that there was more going on it that I enjoyed. So, sorry. Favorite songs on here are definitely going to be the opening song, All Night Long, and then Time Has Got Nothing to Do with It, and My Last 2 Weeks. I think that those three songs are absolutely amazing, and they do stand up there as three of Peter's best songs. My three least favorite songs on here are probably going to be Socrates. No, not Socrates the Python. I was about to say that. I like that song. Dragnet Drag, Funtime, and I'd say Indigo Eyes. And I know that people are going to go like, oh, Indigo Eyes, that's like the best song on here. But oddly enough, I actually prefer the re-recording that he would do for the Recall EP, which I believe was released sometime in the late 90s. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Love Hysteria. And at the end of the day, despite the fact that it has three really good songs on it, I can't ignore the fact that I don't really care too much for most of the other material on it. So because of that, I can't not give the album a 7 out of 10. Yeah, I wish I liked it more than I did. Maybe I will going on, but for right now, it's definitely a 7 out of 10. And that's my review for Love Hysteria. So what do you think? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Is Love Hysteria your favorite Peter Murphy album? Is it your least favorite Peter Murphy album? Please leave any comments, questions, anything like that in the comment box below. I will see you next time for my review of the album Deep. But in the meantime, this is going to be Tyler King with NuReview, Love Hysteria by Peter Murphy, 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.